Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Dan from EFC. Welcome back to our book club. This is our second ever book club. We're going to go ahead and finish off Don Miguel Ruiz's Four Agreements. I have here Jackie and Ashley, our creative assistants in the office. They've been reading the book along with me, and I'm here to kind of see what they thought about the book. So the very last agreement, the fourth agreement, is entitled Always Try Your Best, or Always Do Your Best. So what do you guys think about that fourth agreement?
I really liked the fourth agreement. It maybe was my favorite agreement because he really talks about that your best looks different every day with every situation, depending on a lot of factors like how you feel, maybe even like how tired you are or your emotions and everything. And I have really applied that to my life and just, changing my expectations based on how I'm feeling and how that day is, and not having the same expectations every single day because every day looks different. And I think that also ties in with his other agreement on being impeccable with your word and just your own like self-esteem and everything, that if you can have more realistic expectations, you will just not be so hard on yourself. So I really liked the fourth agreement.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I can agree with that as well. And a thought that came into my mind is that, when you do your best, it's not always going to be on the same level. And to kind of think about that, I thought about like limbo. As you're a kid, you're probably going to be the master at limbo games because you're short and tiny. But as you get older, even if you keep like the pole on the same level, you're probably not even going to, be able to complete going under that pole because, you're growing older, the days are changing. Maybe you gain some weight. That's also, an option. And it's not going to be at the same level that you had it before. And it's not like only in a way where it's like, okay, well, you're a kid, it's different. But it could also, apply to a ton of different situations where, as Ashley said, your best is not always going to be the same thing. So it's just kind of that, I guess, metaphor of
Yeah, for
limbo.
sure. And I mean, I think, when we talk about doing our best, it's very much dependent on like our mood that day or how we feel, how much energy we have, how much we slept, etc. And a lot of the times when we are not recognizing that, hey, like if I don't feel up for doing that much work today, that it's really okay to have like lower expectations of ourselves and be more flexible with ourselves. And heck, like maybe if you start doing some work, then it'll kind of like snowball into like picking up more momentum. But it's really, especially when I talk about executive function, it's really about taking that first step forward into starting to do stuff. And then your best will slowly come out and you'll feel prouder about what you're doing. And it's really just about getting started. I think a lot of the times when we're talking about doing our best, it's usually associated with things that we're really passionate about, not necessarily things that we don't care about. So how do we do our best with things that we don't care about? What do you guys think?
I just think don't set yourself to a super high standard, especially if it's something you're probably not good at. Don't expect I don't know, I always grew up super horrible at math, so you can't really expect yourself to be a master at, I don't know, algebra with like variables or something. Like immediately, if you're not going to get it the first time, then at least you took the step to try.
I also think maybe focusing on try to find a positive in the situation. So think of the end result or the goal or the outcome. So if it's like taking your dishes out of the dishwasher that you hate doing,
Yeah, for sure.
what's the outcome? That you're going to be so happy that everything is organized in your cabinets and you have a clear space and a clear mind.
Seems
So,
like a personal attack here.
yeah, it's just a random scenario. So yeah, like I said, just find something positive that you can look forward to and hold on to.
Yeah, I mean, I think even specifically talking about the scenario of me never putting away my dishes or my utensils or my cups or whatever, I think that when I begin to think about, well, how do I get myself to do it? Oftentimes I I mean, I don't want to like preface it like I give so much thought into putting away my dishes. I really don't. Um, but I think a lot of times it's just remembering the small reward that comes from doing something that you may not want to do, and the small reward of it becoming easier as you do it over and over again. We don't become masters in anything until we have practiced it enough, right? And I think, something like physical organization, which could be terribly hard for a lot of us, myself included. If you open up any of my cupboards, there's no like logical sense to where anything is right now. And I think one of the things I noticed, and it used to be much worse back when I was, in high school and college and etc. But I think as you practice, or as I practice it more, I begin to like feel more comfortable about, plate should go here, cup should go here. It makes more sense for utensils to go here, etc. And then as I do it, I feel a little bit more proud about myself, and there's some reward dopamine, some hormones, etc. Ashley and Jackie are proud. So is my girlfriend, and people give me praise, and even though we shouldn't be thriving on other people's positive feedback is very helpful to trying our best on things that we're not terribly passionate about. Because there are a bunch of things that, we may not be terribly passionate about. And, I think a lot of the times it's just about taking that first step, because that first step can snowball into a lot of bigger things, like maybe like organizing my whole house, which also needs to be done.
Yeah, I was going to say, I like when you said about small rewards. Not only does it help that task get easier, but the small rewards add up. Like if you did, like you said, if you organized your house, like if you did a lot of small things, then at the end of the day, it's all going to add up, and you're just going to feel that much better and say, wow, look at all the things I did. So
yeah,
we love small rewards.
I agree with that. And even if you don't have praise from others, taking a step to do something could save you from like a lot of distress as well. I have like a good example, and I'm sorry if my boyfriend is watching this, but I'm using him as an example. Probably like several times a week, he's like texting me like, oh my gosh, I can't find my TV remote. Because I don't know where he puts it. He has like no organization to where he puts it. And this causes him distress, because then he's like, well, I want to use my TV remote for something. So he probably spends like 20-25 minutes looking for the TV remote. And, if
Hey, John, download the phone app for remote TV remotes on your phone.
that could work too. But yeah, I mean, doing a step towards something can save you distress. Like, for example, if he had like a designated place that, maybe he doesn't put it there.
He Velcros it to the wall or something.
Yeah, like maybe he doesn't put there at the beginning all the time, but, taking the step to like, okay, I'm going to put this on my desk in this very specific spot, then at least he'll know where it's at next time. So then he's like, well, I need my TV remote. Then he could just grab it, and that saves him the distress of looking for it and just being stressed about losing his TV remote.
Yeah, for sure. Like building purpose behind the things that we don't necessarily want to try our best in is for sure very important. Yeah. So cool. So the next chapter is the Toltec Path to Freedom, Breaking Old Agreements. This chapter was very insightful, I thought. And, Reese focuses on kind of the definition, or what he feels like, what true freedom really is, and the possible ways to get there. So he brings up 3 different ways, and we'll definitely dive into each one of those and kind of provide our own insights. But before we do that, what did you guys think about his idea of like children being wild?
I loved it. I thought it was so cool because I have a lot of kids in my life and my family, and it is so true that kids just do whatever they want whenever they want. They are honestly like the boss. They do whatever they want. They don't care. So it's really great to see someone's full authentic personality, and it's not held back like it is with adults. And you can see how people are kind of trained to be a certain way or say things a certain way because of society. So I had never really thought about that or realized that until I read it in the book. So I really liked it.
Yeah. I mean, kids are kind of always interesting because they'll just say anything, and we'll laugh at what they say because we might think it's like absurd or like weird because it's just sometimes it's so random, but it's, you know, their thought process and everything. They're just saying whatever that they want, and it's not necessarily a bad thing either. And when we're free, we kind of do that, you know, we just kind of say whatever. And for kids, when we start seeing agreements being made, you can kind of see their personality being destroyed in a sense, and it's kind of heartbreaking because, you know, there's some parents that tell them like, well, you're too loud, you should learn how to be quiet or something, or just keep your mouth shut. And you know, the kid just kind of looks like, well, what the heck did I do? Like, I just wanted to say something. So that's kind of upsetting. And this kind of reminds us to bring a sense of freedom even in our adult lives, because I'm pretty sure adults are reading this book, or like young adults or something. So it's just a good reminder to live life freely.
Yeah, and I think you know what Reese brings up is that as we make agreements that are tied to responsibilities and expectations, that's when we start having, you know, potentially bad agreements that cause the parasite of the victim and the judge to start happening, right? Where because we're not meeting responsibilities that our parents tell us, or our siblings, spouse, partner, etc., or the expectations that they tell us as well, the judge in us starts to criticize our inner victim. And our inner victim, all it does is kind of hide in the corner, receiving all the criticism, not being able to really fight back. And I think when I was reading that, I was thinking, well, is responsibility bad? Are expectations bad? What do you guys think?
I don't think it's necessarily bad, because obviously if you live life without personal responsibilities, like maybe you like to be a clean person or something, and if you don't shower or something, then, you know, that could lead to other health issues and all that kind of stuff. So I think having responsibilities and expectations that you agree with yourself, I think that's definitely a good thing to have. But when it comes to like responsibilities that you probably don't agree with or may seem negative or harmful, I think that's mostly what Reese is talking about, because, you know, the whole point of the book is to try to be ourselves and try to, you know, live life happily. You know, if we have responsibilities that we agree with, then that's definitely one way that we could be happy and everything.
Yeah, I was totally thinking the same thing. Like, just that no expectations and responsibilities aren't a bad thing. It's a bad thing if you're following someone else's idea that you don't agree with. And so, like, if your boss has an expectation of you, maybe you wouldn't have set that for yourself, but you can agree with it. You're like, okay, that's reasonable that my boss expects me to come to work on time or whatever it is. But if it's something, you know, unrealistic and you're following that, that's just gonna, you know, totally eat you up and not make you happy. So
Yeah, and I think that kind of brings into like Reese's first solution, which is, I think it's called the awareness, the second attention or something like that.
Yeah.
But essentially the idea of surveying all of our previous agreements, you know, good or bad, and asking ourselves which one of these agreements are actually realistic to what we deem as what we would like our responsibilities and expectations to be. I think that's a really good point, is that, you know, responsibilities and expectations are good as long as they are things that we happily and willingly want to do.
yeah.
What did you guys think about this solution that Reese brings up?
Which solution?
Solution 1.
The Angel of Death?
No, that's solution 3, right? So solution 1 is about awareness.
Yeah, no, I really liked that, because I'm all about living with intention and being intentional with everything you do. So if you are going through agreements that you have and you really think about what you value, then you're living intentionally. Because if you're not living intentionally, then, it's going to be that fog that he talks about. So I really liked his first solution about, having that awareness. And that's how I took it, was to just be more intentional with what you believe and what you value, and then how you're actually implementing that in your own life.
Yeah. And I think being aware.
Hey, Jackie. I want to bring your mic over.
Bring it closer.
Especially because I think there is some construction going on outside.
I feel like I bring it closer, then like it goes down for some reason. Okay. This is super close now.
No, you want to lock this joint right here. That's why. Sorry for the tangent, guys.
I don't know. Okay. I'll just have it here. Okay. But I recall, like, even if you're, and you're taking your first steps, like in therapy as well, like being aware is a huge step into, more doors that are going to be open. And I think that's also important that Reese has that as his first step as well, because once you're aware of, what your thought process is and what your actions are, then that's, opening doors for the next steps to freedom, essentially, to, living your life how, to these 4 agreements that he's explaining in the book. So I think it's really good that he has awareness as the first one.
Yeah, and I think, one of the things that Reese brought to me to be more aware of is that, some of the bad agreements that we have in life regarding responsibilities, expectations, relational norms, societal norms, etc., are kind of addictions that we have. They're ways of how we kind of like cope with our relationships, with disappointment, with, responsibilities in general, etc. I think, on page 110, Reese says, that's because our agreements are actually like strong addictions. We are addicted to being the way we are. We are addicted to anger, jealousy, and self-pity. We are addicted to the beliefs that tells us, I'm not good enough. I'm not intelligent enough. Why even try? Other people will do it because they're better than me. What do you guys think about some of these agreements being actual addictions that are very hard to like shake off?
Yeah, I think it's just because it's hard to change for a lot of people. I think it's, it's hard to reflect on yourself and to shake your own mindset and to kind of like look from the outside. So yeah, it does become an addiction because it's just what's easy and it's what you've always done and what's always what you think works. But, in reality, it's not self-improvement and you're not growing. So I think that, yeah, it's just an addiction because it's hard to change and it's hard to get out of that mindset that you already have.
Yeah, I agree. And, as you're trying to go through the journey of self-improvement, there's going to be a lot of times where you might feel uncomfortable because that's part of growing. You're going to get out of your comfort zone and everything. So, this addiction that we have is basically us staying within our comfort zone because it's something that we're used to, and it's easy to stay in this comfort zone. So yeah, those are pretty much my thoughts.
Yeah, and I think the next solution that Reese brings up, which is the discipline of the warrior, controlling your own behavior, I think kind of ties in well with this idea of addiction, is that, sometimes when we have old habits that are hard to change, it's really about opening up those old habits and being able to, survey the emotional challenges that they have and being able to recognize and have kind of what Reese talks about, the resilient mind of a warrior to forgive, let go, and move on. Forgiveness being one of the biggest keys. What do you guys think about the general idea of the warrior mindset?
I really like it, and how I took that is that basically, and this kind of like also relates to the changing, is when you're faced with like an obstacle or whatever situation, and how you would normally react. Try to think of what you would not normally do, and try that. Like, for example, I like to talk things out. I'm not someone who I just give space. Like I want to handle something right then and there. And people in my life aren't like that. So, if something happens and I'm like, okay, I want to talk about this right now, like I try to think, okay, what would I totally not do in this situation? I would totally not just walk away and give that person the space they're asking for. So let me go ahead and try that. And I think that's part of being a warrior is like, you know, understanding like what is needed in the situation, and it's not always easy to do, but you have to be brave and you have to push through because you know that the outcome is worth it, you know.
For sure.
Yeah, I agree with that. Dang. I don't know if I have anything else to say.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a time and place for expressing emotions and working through things and, you know, forgiving. I think a lot of the times, you know, I don't know if it's a cultural thing, but forgiveness at times could be a sign of weakness, or maybe it's like I don't know. Maybe I'm being like is
No,
the
it's
word?
for sure looked at like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No, it can be, but you have to break that agreement because it's not.
Yeah.
Because forgiveness is really your own self, and
Yeah.
and that's what Ruiz talks about in the book. How kind of when people have a negative idea of themselves, they spread poison. Like you are what you spread, and vice versa. So forgiving someone else is just healing your heart. It's not holding on to those emotions. You're not just reliving everything. You forgive them and you know you just move on for your own self. It doesn't justify them. It's not you bowing down to them. It's not weakness. It's for your own self.
Yeah.
So.
Fantastic. So I think this then ties into the last solution, and I guess these solutions are not like independent solutions. These solutions are kind of they build off of each other and stuff. The last solution is the initiation of the dead. What do you guys think about the last solution of? I mean, my interpretation was kind of like to let go of the past. And I think that when we've truly learned from our past mistakes and acknowledged the bad agreements that we've had and replaced them with some good habits and good agreements, then we're able to then actually move on and live in the present and live in the future. And I think it's kind of like, it's shortened in the phrase of like YOLO, right? You only live once. But there's so much more to that than for what Reese is talking about. What did you guys think about that last solution of the initiation of the dead?
Honestly, when I first read the title, I was like, whoa, what are we going to get ourselves into when we're talking about death here? But I think he kind of explains it in a sense of rebirth. And I like to think of it that way because this whole book is about self-improvement and everything. So, you know, if you're on your journey to pretty much like change, like if you feel miserable and you're trying to get out of that state of being miserable, then, you know, there's kind of this rebirth that needs to happen for you to, you know, feel happy about your life and everything. And it could quite be almost literally rebirth. I know a lot of people that go through self-improvement love trying out new things as well. And it's things that they probably wouldn't even have considered in the past.
It's like a transformation.
Yeah. So
Yeah, he uses that word a lot in the book.
it's kind of like a caterpillar turning into a butterfly kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, as you said, with like just kind of letting go of the past, you know, because the past is the past. It's nothing about it is going to change. It already happened. You know, all we have to look forward to is the present and the future, because that's things that you can somewhat have control over. There's obviously aspects that you're probably not going to have control over, but, you know, it's up to you to decide how you want to live the rest of it, you know?
For sure. Yeah. Adding on to that, he says on page 122, he says, when we try to live in the past, how can we enjoy the present? When we dream of the future, why must we carry the burden of the past? When are we going to live in the present? So I think that's just like the whole point of the book, and specifically the last solution is, you know, to live in the present. And those with anxiety know that when you are freaking out about the future, it like hasn't happened. You just go through all these scenarios that never happened. So just really focusing on taking back the present moment and only living for now. So
Yeah, I want you all in the audience to know Trash Day is on Tuesdays, not Wednesdays. So I don't know what they're doing out there right now. So the last chapter is entitled Heaven on Earth. And the quote that I really liked is actually in the beginning of the chapter on page 123. It reads, "The dream you are living is your creation." And I think, and I do this a lot with executive function coaching, is that when my clients and those around us, etc., in general, are able to fully take control of their lives and not be dictated by their past or by agreements that don't really align with their core values and how they want to live their lives and how they want to live purposefully, so that they can try their best, be impeccable, and not take things personally and not make assumptions. When they are able to really do that, then they finally have control over how they live their lives. So I know there's a bunch to this very short chapter. I know Ashley was very into this last chapter.
Yeah, I was going to say this is my favorite chapter. But actually something that I want to point out is, obviously the book is about like self-improvement and everything, but I think this last chapter really talks about now how you treat other people. Because he mentions in this chapter to love people without expectations, judgment, or obligations, and to create space to experience love in your life. So I think that's just a really, really important takeaway that, that I had, was that it's more than just like how you treat yourself and your views on yourself. You really have to put that energy out there. And, it's true that to have change, you have to be the change and kind of lead by example. So
but you gotta love yourself before you can start loving others,
for
right?
sure. So he talks about how to love yourself, how to break those agreements, and then the last chapter kind of like ties it all together. Like, okay, now take this and go spread that, like what the people did, like in the beginning of the book. That was the whole point. Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, I kind of noticed that Don Miguel Ruiz, like even throughout the book, I think a lot of his, I guess, thoughts kind of tie into, I think, Christianity and Catholicism. But, you don't necessarily have to be any of these religions to understand the book. Because even with this chapter 7, A New Dream, Heaven on Earth, like there's not a lot of religions that have heaven. So for some religions, it might be hard to, put this into perspective. Like they don't even know what heaven, encompasses. But I think Reese does a really good job at, explaining what he thinks about it. And, as Ashley said, how to treat others, because, this journey is not just, it's about you, but it's not just about you yourself. It's about how, you treat others as well, because, you can love yourself and, be impeccable with the words to yourself, but what does that matter if you're not impeccable to words that you say to others, So it's always important to kind of be kind. And, I like how he says on page 126, so he says, you can say, I love you with no shame or justification. You can walk in the world with your heart completely open and not be afraid to hurt, because, life is not about roses and butterflies. But if you apply, all the previous 4 agreements, then you already know, like if someone says something hurtful, just don't take it personally. It's about them, not you. So, it's always good to, as Ashley said, to open, have your heart open for opportunities of love. And, that's just, the Toltec path to freedom.
Cool. So that about wraps up this book that we've read. So I guess I'm going to go ahead and put this book on the shelf now. All right. Thanks for joining in. If you liked what we talked about, please like and subscribe.